Finally,
It's time.
it's the eNShow. And you're my first guest for season 4.
I can't wait. I've been waiting for this for a long time.
Long
so
overdue.
let's get to it.
Do it
Yes.
now?
Let's go.
Okay.
This is how my story goes. Pain and joy, I've had it all. Had it all. My vakati paucha fanga. Safa white as you know it. Shine your light and let it show. Let it show. This is my story, story, story.
Tari, I'm so excited to have you on this show. So welcome to the eNShow.
Thank you. It's glad to finally be here.
Well, it's been overtime.
It has been. I was ready. I was preparing. I am ready to be on the eNShow today.
So when I think of you, I think of the first time I met you. And I was working for a banking institution and oh my God, customer service was within my purview. I get this phone call from this person and she's like, I'm in the banking hall, okay? And no one is serving us right now. So like, what the heck is happening? And I'm like trying to manage you. And then at the end of the call, I'm like, okay, so who am I speaking to? My name is Tariro. Tariro neGitare. I was like, and then since then,
Yes.
it's been
And here we are.
And here we are.
we are.
Here we are. And, you know, that moment kind of made me so much aware of your passion for service
Oh, yes.
and just service delivery.
So true.
Because the expectation from you at the time was like, I've been banking with this institution for too long. I deserve better than that.
And I think we underestimate how important it is to partner with brands you actually believe
Yes.
in. And so when that happened, I was like, no. This is my bank.
You know, and the loyalty that you had for
Yes.
it was just amazing.
That's true.
But fast forward and look where we are.
Look where we are.
And I get goosebumps literally when I think of the progression of your career because, you know, COVID happened and I saw you in COVID and I went on your Facebook page or was it Instagram and I was like, I love what you are doing. Why? Because COVID just hit us hard
Yes.
a world over. And you started this program for women playing guitars online.
Yes.
Tell me, first of all, what was that? What
Okay,
made
so-
you do that?
I think because I realized, okay, COVID is a new thing for everyone. And one of the things that has been therapeutic for me is music.
Yes.
So I thought, I'm sure women are going through the same thing. I'm sure there are people who don't even know how to cope or how to deal with whatever it is that they're going through.
Yeah.
And what do I have? I have my little gift that I can share. And I thought, okay, let's use this as a way to connect with women, to get them to express themselves. And music was the best thing. So I decided to start that.
So I know that I was watching you and some of the women who were not necessarily musicians by profession.
Yes.
They had their own professions, but COVID probably brought out passions in us that we had no idea we had.
So true.
So these women had their day jobs, but they were coming online. How did you convince them to be so vulnerable? Because presenting yourself online is a very, you have to balance.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of giving that you do.
Oh, yes.
And you have to be self-aware. How did you get them to be thinking that this is okay?
I think one thing that I've learned about being a musician or having some form of influence is that there's 10 other people who are possibly learning or going through the same thing that you are going through.
Yeah.
So whenever you put something out there, someone will buy into it and someone will align to you and you'll find your tribe. So I knew that if I'm going through this, surely I will find people who are going through the exact same thing. And that's literally how that came up.
So you've been in music for how long now?
Ooh, officially since 2014.
I love officially.
And I say that because that's when I released my first album. So I guess that's the way to gauge it.
Right.
But I started playing way before. I started playing the guitar when I was in high school,
Okay.
when I was 13.
Who gave you your first guitar?
Oh, my neighbor, actually. No, my brother.
Your brother.
My brother gave me my first guitar, but it wasn't really mine. I borrowed it. But then my neighbor, who is a friend that we grew up with, actually gave me a personalized guitar. It was a Cataluna, yeah.
Okay, so what does Cataluna mean?
It's like
is it like a Mercedes-Benz?
No. But it's a good nylon
good
string
brand.
brand. You know those Spanish type guitars?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't a plug-in, but it was just an acoustic 6-string. So I still have it and I value it.
That is amazing.
Yes.
And so all these years later, you are at a point where you're transitioning in your career. So I'm not going to talk about the Tariro neGitare who people know.
Yes.
But I'm just so keen to understand that you have commercialized music in a way that I haven't seen a lot of people do.
Oh, wow.
And you are challenging the notion that there's my guitar, because you've brought so many different elements into music.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about German society
Okay.
and the journey of you partnering with them, and what have you guys been doing?
So I think that's where the gift started to have wings. Because if you know, my background is very corporate, and I was in the events and hospitality space. So the acoustic night was an event that I started because yes, I had been playing with different bands and enjoying the clubs and the pub scene, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I wanted a space where, because I'm a mother, because I was married at that time, I also wanted a space I can go and perform at, and it's family friendly.
And not feel guilty, like who's gonna see me?
I'm not worried about you know.
Yeah.
But I just wanted a safe space for people to enjoy live music. So
Yeah.
we got in contact with the Zimbabwe German Society at that time, and they had a great space that we could use. Roberta Wagner was the director then, and she had a big love and passion for music. So our visions gelled.
Yeah.
So I remember at that time as well, the reason why I actually had to release an album was because of those acoustic nights. Hi-Fi happened, and there was a German band that came.
Yes.
Called Jamaram. We did a collaboration performance, and we fell in love. You know, when the chemistry was just right.
It was just perfect.
It was just perfect. So these guys went back and like, you know what? We need to get these guys on tour.
Yeah.
That's how my first international tour happened. That's how my first album happened, because I couldn't tour without an album.
Wait a minute. First international tour is married with your first album.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Yes, and I had never, I mean, no one knew me in Zim. I mean, it was literally just a handful of people. But that tour set the standard. 22 shows in 3 weeks. Literally from the airport straight to studio, we're rehearsing. From the studio, we're on the tour bus. And I'm talking about tour bus. The actual, you know.
Like a real tour bus.
A real tour bus with a bathroom and everything. It was just lovely. It was lovely. But what it did for me is it set the bar so high, because now the sound was perfect. We had a tour manager, we had a road manager, everyone in the band was involved. We were filming a documentary in the process with 5 camera angles. And it was like, I was like, oh, where you go, chi, and the slides go bah, and the smoke machine, oh, it was just the works. But
that's like real Hollywood.
That was proper stuff. But for me, it was God showing me a standard.
Okay.
To say, okay, this is where you're starting. So can you imagine where you're supposed to go?
I'm actually sitting here. So the first question that I really need to ask you is, how many singles did you produce before this bang happened?
None.
Because
I had never been in studio. David Sengwai, was actually the first producer that I'd worked with. Actually, I'd been in studio, but with Edith Wotonga for her albums.
Right.
But as Tariro neGitare, I'd never. I mean, DS was actually walking me through. Okay, you need to put more confidence. Sing like this. He literally walked me through the recording process. I had no album. Actually, when I listen back to that album now, I can hear a lot of mistakes.
but it's because of maturity and all of that.
Yes.
Was there any moment in time where you actually said to yourself, this cannot be me?
So many times.
Like, did you pinch yourself to say, no, man?
I think the first time that happened was I was on stage with Edith Wotonga at that time.
Right.
The late Dr. Oliver Mutukuzi walks in.
Oh.
And you're on stage and you're like, oh.
Is that him?
That's him. And so, like, do I, you know, it was crazy. Yeah. And then soon after the show, he says, well done, Mwanangu. But next time, tune your guitar.
Wow.
The most embarrassing moment, but again, bringing in the importance of mentorship. Because had he not said that to me, I would not have been more intentional about preparation for my performances. So, yeah, I mean, at that time, I remember thinking, this was my bucket list, and it's done before I've even released my album. So
that's
dream
amazing.
Bigger, Tari. Dream bigger.
Dream bigger and be audacious about the dreams.
Be audacious about it, yeah.
But so and you talk about something really important here, that Tuku took the moment to build and to tell you that you needed to improve. Well done. But, and I think in life, we don't always do that with each other.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, oh my gosh, she's looking so beautiful, but you know what? Her wig is on the side.
That's so
and
true.
We don't correct our wigs, and we don't correct ourselves, and we don't want to improve ourselves. So I think he was actually investing in you. That was such an investment in you.
I actually had a conversation about that yesterday with a friend, and he said, look, a lot of the times we don't progress because we were sitting at a table at a local venue And I said, the sound is so loud, we cannot even have conversations. And he was like, so go tell the sound guy. And I was like, oh, okay. So, we just went and we said, you know what, why don't you turn it down a bit? You've got great speakers and what. And it sounded beautiful in the end. But a lot of things go unsaid. We don't correct each other. We don't sura each other. Or when they do, people don't have teachable spirits enough to be humble to learn from that criticism. So I think it's a leaf we have to learn from that.
Absolutely.
That story.
And it also sets the pace as you being a mentor as well to others. But we're going to take a break,
Okay.
Tariro. And when we're coming back, I really want us to talk about, this new phase that you're in.
Okay,
And maybe a little bit more about German society.
Sure.
This is the eNShow. I'm with Tariro neGitare. So don't change that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the eNShow, and I'm with Tari neGitare. First of all, Tari neGitare. I think you have become a household name. A lot of people pair guitars with you, and I think you've changed the landscape of the different instruments that musicians can be using, and it's beautiful what you've been doing.
Thank you.
Let's talk about German society just a bit more.
Yeah.
So there's a young lady who's there. So I have to plug her in.
Yes, please.
She's doing such a phenomenal job.
She is.
What do you see more partnerships coming through?
Oh, yes. What that did is the Zimbabwe German Society gave us a platform to explore.
Right.
So we had the space, we could do capacity building, we could network, we could now tour. Because I think we held 3 consecutive tours after my initial one, which was exposing artists as well. I think when you look at the whole ecosystem as a creative, those partnerships are important.
They are.
Because you cannot talk about Zimbabwe or an artist in Zimbabwe when you don't have the context of the world. We need to learn from best practices and then tailor-make them to the Zimbabwean context. So I do think that those partnerships are very important. And I don't take it for granted that I had that help from the Zimbabwe German Society. And the acoustic night is still running right now.
That's amazing.
We're actually doing it in Bulawayo at the place called the Oasis. Again, also trying to create that ecosystem of creatives because you can't do it alone.
Right.
You need the camera people, you need the makeup artist, you need the fashion designer. And if we can all come together on a platform that is supported by someone, then we can all get forward.
It really makes me think about the future of musicians in Zim. And so I've had a number of musicians on the show, and one of the key things that they speak about is just the lack of understanding and support that they get locally. So you mentioned the fact that you were such a great big deal out there, but locally in Zimbabwe, people didn't know you.
Yeah.
How can we carry people on the journey of understanding and investing in local content and loving it and loving the different genres that we have to present? So you have your dance hall, you've got your soulful, you've got all these different. You used to partner with Prayer Soul, and he's got all these different great sounds. You as a music producer, come management, because you're stepping into a role of management now.
Definitely.
How do you see the future of music for these young people who are coming up?
So I attended a workshop where Steve Dyer was in the country a few weeks ago, and he
incredible guy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking about identity. Mono chimed in as well, and he said self-love, and that blew me away because unless we love ourselves as creatives, we cannot tell a story of a Zimbabwean identity. As Zimbabweans, generally, we need to love ourselves because if we are putting each other down in different spaces, how is that going to be communicated by the creative?
Yeah.
So I think the first point is the artist needs to love themselves. Because when you love yourself, you're so sure of your identity, you're so sure of your purpose that you move in it in such a way that is so admirable. I love Nigerians because they are unapologetic about the way they express themselves. If I take my guitar and I start playing Bira rhythms and I'm so in love with it because it's Zimbabwean, it's everything about me. If I love my language so much and I speak it with such charisma and
eloquence,
and being very demure.
Yes, yes.
It actually is attractive. And people want to be a part of things like that. So I think the first point is self-love. And then again, from the art part of the artist, being very intentional. Emily will never know about Tariro neGitare unless I tell Emily about it.
Yeah.
So I've been very intentional about preaching the gospel about the Zimbabwean music. Have you heard this artist? Have you done this? And engaging the right people who have the spaces, the radio stations, the TV, the eNShows, and making sure that they know that this is what's happening. We're doing this at this place. Come and have a look. And I think right now there's a hunger for content, and we need to hop onto it as Zimbabweans and make sure that people out there get to hear what we're doing. I think it's ripe for just some exponential growth.
I am loving, I've got so many questions, but I'm loving all that you're talking about, because I think people say my role is to sing. And then
Oh yeah.
your role is to sing, your role is to market, your role is to sell, your role is to convince people that your genre is great. Your role is multi faceted.
Make us believe the dream.
Exactly.
Make us believe. And then partner with those people who are good at it. Because you can't do everything.
No.
That's a fact.
I believe in partnerships 100%.
But get on board with those that are doing it and hop onto the train. That's why I'm so for artist collectives. That's the acoustic night model. Is really a collective of artists who are gifted in different ways. And I learned that from Jamaram, because the guy who was filming the documentary was a drummer. The guy who does the sound, he's the bassist.
Wow.
So everyone has a role. Everyone is expanding themselves. One of them is a producer. So everything is internal, and we all get to do it and grow together.
Yeah.
And I feel that is a model that we can take up and just run with it. And I've been also intentional with my band, trying to say, okay, yes, you're a drummer, but why don't you try this? Yes, you're this, but why don't you try this?
So you're stretching your team.
Yes, we have to stretch each other.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we can be resourceful with what we have.
Yeah.
And make use of the little resources that we have.
So talking about stretching now.
Yes.
You were stretched recently.
Definitely.
Over the past couple of years, right? With Walter.
Yes.
Tell me about how this festival concept has blown up in your life, because and how. So when I remember seeing you, Tari, being the person who has an idea, you have like a briefcase of ideas. And I've always told you this. You're like one person who's like, oh, I'm meeting EN. Okay, what hat is she wearing today? Let me take out this idea because it suits her.
Yes.
So you have so many ideas. But I think, from the research that we've done on you, you were thrown off when Walter actually threw you in the deep end.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about the festival.
So the Jacaranda Music Festival is an annual event that
Yes.
happens once a year in Harare. And I had been working with Walter for a long time on different projects. Walter is the director of the festival.
Yes, Walter Wanyanya.
Yes. Shout out to you, boss.
Yes.
So 2023, that's when I had come for Jacaranda anyway, because I was the artist liaison. But this year, 2023, he says to me, no, why aren't you running your own festival? And I was like, bruh, I'm not there. And he's like, look, you've been doing A, B, C, D. Actually, funny story, in I think it was 2010 or 2011, when we were trying to go to Germany, he was one of the first people that I approached to support us, to raise some money for us to go on tour. And he said to me, you know what? Great, I like what you're doing, but I don't think this is going to be your focus for long. I want to show you something different. And he took myself and Prayer Soul to watch John Legend in Joburg.
Okay, so wait, first of all, when he said to you, this is not your purpose.
I was livid. I felt a bit insulted, actually. I was like, this guy doesn't even believe in my dream. But only when I went to watch that concert did it make sense, because I was not excited by John Legend per se.
Right.
But I was excited by the lights, by the setup, the sound.
He knew what you needed.
He knew what I needed.
And he saw you in a different place.
In a different place.
So you all need someone like that,
you
right?
You do. You need someone who can see where you
Yeah.
can't even see yourself. And even at that time, I was like, okay, this is great. I could never do this.
Yeah.
So when he did call me, he's like, remember that conversation we had?
Wow.
It's time. And if you're not ready, it's fine. I will walk you through the journey. And when you're ready, take off.
Wow.
That's how Jacaranda happened. And please note, all things will always work together for good, and your gift will make room for you. When the call came, I was sitting somewhere in Bulawayo asking God, okay, God, how can you give me all these gifts and this training for nothing?
Yeah.
But nothing goes to waste, because all the training in the acoustic night
Was preparing
me for
this
that. I grew up in the hospitality industry, so I was very well connected with the tours and hotels and that sort of network. I'm an artist, so I knew every artist. It was the perfect job. It is the perfect job for me, for a person like me. So when I look at that grace that God awarded me to be able just to be a part of a big movement like that is exciting.
So let me tell you my experience of watching you at work.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for inviting me to the launch your official launch of Jacaranda.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there and I was watching you work. And I said to myself, she probably doesn't even know that she's the heartbeat of this thing because
wow.
everyone was coming to you for guidance. And I remember meeting Walter for the first time and he was like, well, she knows everything, like she's the person. But he meant it in a way that was saying she is such a powerful part of this. Does that scare you? To be
definitely.
given such a platform for something where people are actually... Tari, people flew in. But before you even answer, we're going to take a quick break. But I just want to say to you, people flew in
Yes, they do.
for the Jacaranda Festival.
Yes, they do.
It has been on people's calendars for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
And you are the woman behind it. So we're going to pick up from there.
Awesome.
Just right now. This is the eNShow with Tariro neGitare. And if you've been to Jacaranda, she's the woman who's behind it. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the eNShow. So, Taddy, we were talking about Jacaranda and just the quantum and the size of this growing franchise.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so, when you curate and all of this, and put it all together, I was watching you on social media and it was like days before and you're building up and building up. And I saw you do your little dance and everything. And I was like, Jippy, that nervous. She's nervous. This child is nervous. Was there ever a time when you were like, oh my gosh, I'm really scared that if this doesn't happen?
All the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I need to put a disclaimer on is that everything rises and falls on leadership.
Yes.
And I have a great leader.
Wow.
I have a great leader. And he put together a great team.
Yes.
People who actually believe in the vision and people he has trust in that this thing can actually move. And I think the beauty of working with people who know what they're doing is it just makes everything easier. Yeah. We do the planning way in advance. So a lot of the work is actually done before the actual day.
And you guys have already announced your 2025.
Yes. So, I mean, by the time we get to September, we're just literally just waiting for it to happen.
Wow.
Yeah, and Jacaranda excites us because we are artists. We're both artists. And a lot of the team are artists. And because we have a vision to just use this platform as a space to create better artists. And also to teach artists to expand themselves.
Yeah.
So that vision keeps us going and it makes us want to always be better.
So you're talking about leadership, and I think that's a really key thing. So Walter, in his nature, I just met him very briefly. But in those brief minutes, I could tell that he's a man with a vision.
Oh, yes.
And he's got such clarity around what it is he wants to accomplish with music. And then he was telling me about, Emily, we can do all of these other different things. And I see him not being limited to Jacaranda, but saying we've got so much to produce in Zimbabwe. Have you looked at doing your own management of festivals? He challenged you and
he has, and I still think there's a lot to learn for me. But I'm excited because this platform allows me to explore different platforms. We're now part of a regional group of festivals, which is the Joy of Jazz, South Africa, Luju Festival, MTN Bushfire, all those regional ones that we are part of and we can learn from and take best practices from and also export because now we're part of that circuit. I do think I'll be with Jacaranda for a while because I do enjoy it and I think I'm going to learn a lot. But another thing that I want to highlight is also the intentionality about his succession plan. He's so intentional about teaching. So intentional about sharing that vision. So even the security guard knows exactly what we're doing on the day.
That's amazing.
And I'm learning to take a leaf from that as well because, Jesus has this model where he came in and had 12 people who could duplicate him and look where we are now. And if we can just take that model and say, okay, I need 12 festival managers by the time I'm done. So I'm very intentional about who I'm imparting to, who I get in my space, and just being intentional about sharing the information that I'm learning because it's not something you can go to school for, but you are picking up, bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah.
So I think that intentionality about sharing that vision, making sure everyone gets it. And I think it's also inspiring a national vision because if you can notice, there's a spur of a lot of festivals now happening.
So yes.
And the quality of festivals has changed.
Has improved.
It has greatly improved. So I'm excited about what this is doing. and the attention that it's getting from the corporate, from the government, on a national scale and from a regional scale.
I actually
Let's
wanted
see-
to mention corporate because this is a big plug to Stanbic for even
Definitely.
taking up the mantle to say we're going to invest in this.
Yes.
How, a lot of corporates don't really see the vision of music until it's done by someone else. And then you're like, why didn't we think of this? And I'm hoping that a lot of people will start looking at music as an investment for them to reach their consumers.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I'm getting from Jacaranda. So yeah, I'm hoping that the corporate landscape can become more open to sponsoring some of these initiatives.
I'm sure
as
they're
well.
watching the eNShow right now.
Yes, I hope if you're a corporate, I hope you'll put your money here.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what happens to Tari after a big festival like that? How do you just woosa? I know you've got a daughter, a teenager.
Yes.
I've been loving to see her grow up over the years.
Yes.
But is that your safe space? Is that where you go?
That is definitely my safe space. But my safe space is now 19, hey? She's turning 19. So I need
You're not her safe space.
I'm not a
She's
safe
like
space.
later.
She's ready to go on with her own life. So I think also Jacaranda came at a good time where I needed something for me to immerse myself in.
Empty nest syndrome.
Yes. And my daughter had been a big part of my life. I let go a lot of things because I wanted to wholly focus on her and make sure that she's sorted. She's taught me a lot of things. I think motherhood is my proudest achievement.
Me too. And I used to be really wary about saying that because not everyone gets that.
Oh, yeah.
But I am really proud to be a mom.
Me too.
I am. And I think I work at it the same way that I work at my job.
Yes.
But your kids don't see you in the roles that you carry at work versus at home.
Yes.
My kids were saying to me, Mom, we don't even understand how you can be this person. They were so shocked to see me in this versus the mom who is at home. How does your daughter see you? So does she see you like as the Tari neGitare that we all see you with? Or she's like, Jipiko, last week.
I think she's a bit schizophrenic in that regard because one moment I'm hard and fast and then the next moment I'm dancing and but I've been very intentional about making her walk the journey with me. And I think because I raised her as a single mom, I had no choice.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'd take her with me on gigs because I had no one to leave her with.
Yeah.
And I make sure that we travel together a lot so that she also gets to experience a lot of what I do.
Yeah.
So at the acoustic night, she'll sell tickets because I say to her, you know what, this is where your school fees is coming from. So make sure you're involved in the process. She's really been walking the journey with me. If there's one person I would trust to be a festival manager,
it's her.
It would be her.
And I think we're getting it right by bringing our kids into these spaces because we're showing them that it's okay for me to be a mom, but it's also okay for you to see me in my corporate light.
Exactly.
I
think for a girl as well,
for a girl.
I really wanted to have options. And not to limit herself and to say, look, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Look at me. Look at what I've done. And look at how I've branched out from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And you can do exactly the same thing. You can do bigger and better things. So I think let's expose our girls and our children in general to our work so that they also see what's possible.
So what's next? What's next for you?
I have no idea.
If I were to say, turn in the next 5-10 years, where do you see yourself?
You know what? If you asked me last year, I would not know where I'd be this year. So I'm learning to just embrace the open canvas and taking a day at a time. But the things I definitely own my heart, capacity building in the arts, I'm big on that. And I really want to continue doing that through the acoustic night space. Currently, we're in Harare and Bulawayo, so I'm excited about growing it to bigger places. Because if we can get a circuit going nationally, it's easier to get it going regionally.
Right.
If an artist is coming into Zimbabwe and we just say, okay, you start off in Harare, go to Gweru, go to Masvingo, go to Bulawayo, go to Vic Falls, and we set up those tours and those performances, it's much easier, even for a local artist, if they want to tour the country. Where do you even start? And how do we prepare ourselves? I mean, when you look at the Jacaranda stage, it's a bit intimidating. You need to have
the
walked
stage is massive.
Yes.
Hello, just seeing the lighting there.
Yes.
I mean, I saw a lot of the back,
the
back, the behind the scenes.
And even now that I interact with a lot of artists, I'm seeing gaps that need to be filled.
Right.
Do you have your electronic press kit? Do you have a photographer coming to document? Are your contracts ready? Are you compliant? Because now we are working with Stanbic, we have to be compliant. Are you registered with Zamora? Are you cleared with what's that with the censorship
the censorship board, yeah.
So those sort of things that we are now saying, okay, maybe we can help you get you to a level where you can be bankable.
So wait a minute. Is this you getting into a space of managing musicians?
Maybe not managing.
Girl,
mentoring.
I hear you managing.
I don't think I would want to manage. I think I love too much. It would break my heart.
Okay.
However, I do feel that I'm in a unique space where I can facilitate for the growth and the development of artists.
That says a lot, hey, because I've realized that over the years, I've reached a point in my life where I'm very clear of what my purpose is.
Oh, definitely.
And it crystallizes over a period of time.
Oh, yes.
And I think when I look back, it has always been there. It's
Yes.
just evolving. And you're right to say that you're evolving
Yes.
and you're taking it one step at a time. But if I look in my crystal ball with you, I see you really going outside of our borders with musicians that are Zimbabwean, but really telling the Zimbabwean story.
Oh, yes.
And telling it in a positive way. Because I don't think we always do justice in telling our story in and owning our story.
Oh, yes.
So this is a big part of the eNShow. I'm all about inspiring our own stories, owning them and telling them, and getting people to also tell their stories.
So good.
You're doing it through music.
So good.
And I'm sitting here looking at you and I'm like, okay, she's saying this, but anyway, God knows. And my last question is, God plays a really big role in your life. Why?
Because it is in Him that we live and move and have our being. Because if you seek Him first, these are the things will be added unto you. And because your gift will make room for you. And He has given us a manual to follow. I can't tell you how fascinated I am by the Bible, because everything that you need is in it. When I restarted my journey in 2015, I said, okay, I need to refocus and find out what's happening. I went back to the book, because you go back to the manual when you see, this is not working.
Yeah.
What are you saying about me, God? Because He's the ultimate creator. And if I need creativity, I need to look for Him. And He gave me the story of King David when he was called into Saul's service. And the characteristics that fascinated me as the Saul's attendant described David in 1 Samuel 16. He says, look, he's a warrior. He's a brave man. He looks well. He's prudent. But most importantly, the Lord is with him. And that is what set him apart from everyone else. So I realized, okay, I can be very talented, I can be gifted, and I can move with this guitar, but if the Lord is not with me, I'm wasting my time. And when I submitted my gift to Him, doors started opening. I don't look for opportunities. I don't look for gigs. They come as and when I need them. And every single relationship that God has placed into my life has been fruitful. And I'm talking fruitful, the Galatians 5:22 type fruit. Love, joy, peace, faithfulness, joy, self-control. Those sort of things that only the Holy Spirit can do.
Wow.
Only the Holy Spirit. So if you can take that gift and submit it to Him, God will do wonders.
And
with
it's
it.
about submission.
It's all about Him. I've actually got a song called It's All About You.
Dang. Tariro neGitare. I know we can talk and talk
We
forever.
can.
But it has been such an honor and a pleasure to have you on the eNShow.
Such a pleasure. Thank you
And-
for finally having me.
Oh, don't make me feel guilty. You should have been on the show a long time ago.
Yes,
You're a sister, you are a colleague, and I'm just so proud of you. And I'm loving where you're going. And
Thank you.
congratulations on all of your successes.
And congratulations on season 4.
I know, right? Thank you so
Well
much.
done.
And thank you for watching the eNShow. I'm with Tariro neGitare. So watch us next week for more inspirational stories, sending love and light your way. Welcome to EN Extra, only available on our YouTube platform. So, Tari, we were talking very deeply about God and how He plays such a big role in your life.
Yes.
But it's not time, so I was like... But you're so right. I really believe that God places us in places where we need to use our talents in certain ways. And if we don't use our talents with His commandments or with His guidance,
Yes.
then we're doing a disservice.
Definitely.
And in your language and in your speech, you are so intertwined with the gospel.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what makes you unique in your profession. But you are talking also about the impact of spouses or family members or
yes.
people around you walking the journey with you. So you were talking
yes.
about your daughter.
Yeah.
What have you seen in the industry, especially with partners
Oh,
and musicians?
I've seen a lot, and I've
Yeah.
seen that your partner can make or break you.
Yes.
If you do not have a partner in purpose, again, coming back to the creator, because he's the one who orders the steps. He's the one who gives you someone who knows what he put in you. I'm at
Because
a
it's a
place-
gift, right?
It's a gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift, and it needs to be managed well. It needs to be stewarded well, not only by you, but by the people around you.
Yeah.
I am so blessed because at the stage I'm in my life, I've realized that I've always had consistency in terms of the people speaking into my life, whether it's my parents, who have been the best mentors I've had throughout my life, mentors, and also having bad partners or making my bad choices of the people I dated impacted what the results I'd have on stage or the way my career could have been.
Yeah.
And I'm now so intentional about who I surround myself with and who I'm letting to speak into my life, because that's your make or your break. Something as small as you wake up in the morning and someone says, Emily, chidress chako chakashata ichi." That can affect how you interact with your whole team.
My way, I know to Buddha.
So again, those things, it says guard your heart above all else. The word tells us, because it's out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks.
Yeah.
So those people around you, what are they speaking into
You need cheerleaders.
Yes, you need cheerleaders. And I have to give credit to my parents, who've always been the voice of reason. I remember at my lowest moment, I decided to go back to my parents' house.
Wow.
And we had been estranged for a while. And I remember calling my mother and I said, Mom, I'm coming home. And she says, that's fine, your room is ready. That's all she said. And I remember when I got back in shame I was literally that prodigal daughter. And she said, you did it before, you can do it again.
Do you know, Tari, I remember that period.
Yes.
Because we spoke deeply. We spoke deeply at the time. And you were like, I can't do this anymore. I just need to reset.
Yes.
And I could get you. Because sometimes you need to find a safe haven where you can do that. So it's either your spouse, your partner, or it's your family, your extended family, where you can just say, guys, I need a break.
You do.
And
you know this, because whether you're high up the corporate ladder or high up in the creative ladder, it's lonely at the top.
It is.
And you don't know people's intentions. You don't know whether they're genuine. The best advice I remember when I got the appointment as Jacaranda Music Festival manager, I was so excited because the love was inflowing, what I thought was love, the messages and the calls. And one thing my boss said to me was, do not mistake this for love. Because the fame can be deceiving. And I can relate, because when you're a musician, everyone's telling you, wakapenga, unogona. That can get to your head.
Yes.
You need someone who's going to keep you grounded. You're great, but remember, this gift is not yours.
Yeah.
You're great, but remember, his glory is supposed to be the one that's getting the credit, not yours.
So do your siblings do that for you? Because I know you've got siblings, right? So do you have that moment where you're like, I'm just studying here. I'm not studying neGitare. I'm not like I'm not that person.
Yes. And I don't think they see that, actually, because when you grew up with, they know Tari.
Yeah, they know Tari.
They know the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it just takes one comment for you to be like, yo, humility. Put the tail between the legs. And I think I like that about, that's why I constantly go back to that space. I constantly interact with my siblings. I'm actually still friends with my friends from high school.
That's amazing.
Or that I grew up with in the neighborhood. And those circles keep me grounded because they know the journey. I can't pretend when I'm with them.
It's wonderful to have that.
When I say, I'd like my latte, please. So I love those circles. I love community. It keeps you grounded. And I think one thing that also moving to Bulawayo has helped me do is create a community of those kind of people, rich relationships that will say, Tari, do you need bread? Are you okay? Yeah. And they genuinely are concerned with that. So I think it's very important to create that circle of people around you that will keep you grounded and will spur you when you need that encouragement.
I get that all the time.
Yeah.
Unsolicited. I've got two sisters. And for me, I think it is always that unedited review.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, please watch this show and tell me what I value their opinion so much, because it's coming from a point of, I want to build you, my little sister. Yeah. I want you to be the best that you can be. And so when I'm not pulling my best, they'll sit me down and be like, excuse me, what was this?
Yeah.
You go back and do it again. So I think we need those cheerleaders. Definitely. But if you don't have those cheerleaders, is it one of the biggest problems in our in our music industry right now is that people tend to either say, Tari has made it. And so inini I'm her partner. Nenonda kutonzo Ditorio Burumu wa Tari neGitare.
Sexually transmitted fame.
I love that.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, and I think it's something that needs to be guarded. Fame needs to be managed.
Yeah.
And if you're a spouse, support your spouse in a way that you can realize, okay, this is where they're lacking, and this is where I can be a support system. The fame is not yours. You can
it's so
reap
temporary.
It's temporary. You can reap the benefits of it because you're with someone famous, but it's not yours. And I think that's something that needs to be understood. And then because you are at a point where you can see things from an unclouded perspective, you are in a good position to advise wisely. And also, the relationships that your spouse has built need to be maintained if they are necessary, or they need to be cut off. I remember there's an artist I interacted with, and their spouse came to an event I was managing, and they didn't know who I was, and they just blurted out stuff. You don't know who I am. I am the one who made this guy come. And I was like, oh, great.
Wow.
You're just lucky, or that I know this guy. I know him very well. But it's also now me as a big sister to say, okay, Blaz,
you need to manage this.
Manage this.
Yeah.
Again, coming back to that issue of having the right people in your circle.
And mentorship and management. Yeah.
And another thing, let your partner be a part of the journey so that
you
they
have to bring them
understand
along.
what you're going through.
Yeah.
Say, dear, I'm dealing with this right now. How do you think we manage it? It's our thing. And then you find that if they have the right input into your business, into what you're doing, sometimes things are easier.
I totally get it, because when in my party, we used to go through the guest list for the eNShow, and he'd be like, I quit. And I'd be like, no, but why? And he's like, no, that's not our brand.
Exactly.
And when he said that, I totally got the fact that it was not our brand. And he was owning it. So I get it completely.
Yeah.
Legacy building.
Oh, yeah.
As we wrap up, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
I want God to be glorified. I want people to look at my life and say, we can see the hope of Christ through everything that he did, that I did rather. And I my prayer every day is, Lord, let people mustn't have to go to the word. They must see what you're doing in my life and say, that is God. Your fingerprint must be all over. That is the legacy I wish to leave. And I pray that God grants me the grace and the wisdom to be able to do that. And that I inspire a generation to want to live God's way and to use this manual called the Bible and just use it as a blueprint, because that thing is powerful.
It is the guide for everything.
It is powerful.
Yeah.
And the word is a lamp unto your feet. Imagine every day just going and say, okay, what are we doing today? You go to that word and it's telling you what to do. It's crazy.
The power of God is just incredible.
It's incredible.
And Tari, we can go on and on and on. I think we need like an extra. But thank you so much for coming on the show. And I keep learning from you. And I know that when I see you next, I'll be like, okay, you need to come back on the show. We need to do an update for that one.
We do.
And we'll continue doing updates, but wishing you much success in the future.
Thank you so much.
And it's been a pleasure to have you.
And thank you for being a part of the journey as well, in your little ways.
I know. And I've loved seeing you grow. So it's been a pleasure.
Awesome.
This is the eNShow Extra, sending love and light your way.